Hello, today I'd like to talk about the different scenarios we face when we're turning around a business and what are the historic trends or reasons for decline and how we can address them so we can get a recovery of the business. I mean, the track record of both the business and the directors, I think, is important in determining the chances of success of a turnaround strategy involving existing management. Accordingly, it's important to understand the history of the business and in addition, understand the history of the directors. For example, they may have worked together in a previous business, which could have succeeded or failed. They may be family members who have no management or business experience outside the company. They may simply be a very sound management team that is totally unprepared for a downturn in performance. So it is very important at this stage to fully understand the reasons for decline in performance, as this will help us in planning for the future. History should be an influential factor in all we do, including business, politics, and life. To understand history means we understand the things that have worked and those that have not. It means we understand the reason or reasons for us being where we are today. It also helps us to avoid the mistakes of the past. We see this quite often in political life, where politicians repeatedly fail to understand history and repeat time and time again the failures of their forefathers. The turnaround manager needs to comprehend this as to ignore the history of the business and the individual directors could influence the outcome of the turnaround detrimentally. By looking at the history of the business and its owners, we gain a better understanding of why the company is in its current state. So, the following scenarios describe the main reasons, from my perspective, for declining the performance of a business. Of course, individual cases are complex and varied, but I think this is a fairly accurate summary. I'll share my screen. And here we go. So, successful turnaround strategies dealing with different turnaround scenarios. First one is why there's been gradual decline. If there's been a steady and continuous deterioration in trading, this could be due to a number of reasons. It may be the market and product service line is in general decline. It may be that management hasn't addressed the issues as they occur and generally not performed in line with the needs of the business. In this situation of gradual decline, timing is critical. Otherwise, things will not get better. It's worse. The reality is that directors are likely to feel that they manage the business in the good times, so why can't they manage it in the bad times? There's also a sense of failure in taking advice too soon. And the key to resolving this particular chestnut is, of course, we've got to get other financial advisors, banks, lenders, etc., to recognise when a company is underperforming and is declining, and encourage directors to take advice, not just from an insolvency practitioner, but from those people that might be able to help in turning around the business by bringing in, a jet of fresh air and an injection of new oxygen. So, but all too often it is left too late, and that is an ongoing problem for a turnaround director. So, is everything lost in this situation? Well, no, because there's things we can do in the sense that because it's been gradual decline, then it's likely that there is still some opportunity to improve performance. All we need to do is, first of all, look at our cash position, look at cash flow, doing a 30-week cash flow forecast or shorter if necessary, and look at how we can Have we got a window of time? Can we create a window of time? Have we got breathing space to do things? We also need then to talk to creditors, particularly. Are we under any pressure, legally or otherwise? Can we speak to creditors to ask them to hold off, that we are taking action, we've brought in an advisor, we're looking to turn things around, and we're going to report back to them on a regular basis. Communication is key here, and I find that creditors are willing to talk, in the main, willing to talk, and willing to wait if that is in the best interest, their best interest, of course. Other area, of course, is where we can take out some costs, if that can be done quickly and easily and cheaply. If we're taking out staff, labour, then redundancy may be involved, and that may not be cost effective. Sales is a difficult one. That is not usually easy to turn around. Nevertheless, we should look at any debtors that are out there that are slow payers, poor payers, chase them up aggressively, very aggressively, to get the money in. Are there any quotes, any outstanding proposals that we can turn into business quite quickly? So are there any quick sales we can make? Can we go back to any existing customers and ask them to increase their intake of profit? Is that a possibility for us to look at? So they're the options that we can look at when we're talking about gradual decline. So sudden drop in trading, well, this could be easier to address if it is a single issue, such as a loss of a major contract or other calamity, including a major recession in the industry, or even a catastrophe such as a fire or the death or illness of a key player in the organisation. It may be a bad debt that has hit cash flow, thus disabling the company's ability to fund working capital requirements. If it is a loss of a major customer, and you've only got one or two customers, then this could be critical if you cannot replace that customer quickly. And I've seen that happen on occasions. Again, action needs to be taken quickly, as the reduced performance is likely to persist if not addressed. The calamity may be a deep wound that will require radical or significant actions, such as downsizing or disposal of certain activities if the particular issues cannot be resolved quickly enough. When faced with this situation, the turnaround manager must avoid quick fixes and remedies. A Pareto or ABC analysis might reveal a dependence upon too few customers or clients, which is quite often the case in these situations. A Pareto analysis is based on the findings of an Italian, a Vilfredo Federico Damaso Pareto, who discovered that 80% of the land in Italy was actually owned by 20% of the population. It's also known as the 80-20 rule, whereby, for example, 80% of the sales come from 20% of the customers. It's surprising how true this is of many businesses. So it is worth looking at our customer base here and see where we can take action in terms of improving the number of customers and doing that quickly. Again, as before, cash flow forecast is important. The window of time is key. Have we got time to address the issues? Talking to creditors is key as well. So these things are general in all turnaround situations. So performance is mediocre, is flat, sometimes referred to as zombie companies, not a term that I like. These are companies that are going nowhere fast or not even going anywhere at all. They survive by the skin of their teeth and will continue to do so until something dramatically changes, such as a loss of a major customer. They're vulnerable and exposed, particularly if they are highly geared, that is, riddled with debt. The business may be holding its own. Some months are making a small profit and others a slight loss. It's going nowhere very quickly. It just about manages to keep its head above water. It's forever chasing cash and reaches the end of the month with a sigh of relief. The directors will be firefighting continually. but cannot seem to dig themselves out of the situation. They will typically believe that an injection of new capital is all that's needed to resolve the problem. It may be that changes are necessary to turn this business around. It is most likely that that is the case. But management may be reticent to do that, make those changes because it's not something that they're used to. One typical scenario is where the company is actively seeking a buyer and endeavouring to keep going until a deal is done. Sometimes a turnaround manager will be asked to fulfill the role of keeping the business viable until the acquisition is made. The risk is that the deal does not go through, and many do not, and the turnaround manager is faced with a different problem and may have to resort to turn around in a potentially critical position. As the company is walking on a precipice, it will take only one small breeze to blow it off its flimsy hold on survival into a situation where things quickly worsen. The company will be very sensitive to any adverse actions, such as tightening of facilities at the bank, loss of a contract, or loss of any key personnel, particularly in the sales arena. The good turnaround manager will want to act quickly to identify these sensitivities and address them early on. For example, this may require the turnaround manager meeting with the bank to explain the objectives of the work without making any guarantees. Rather, this is about opening the lines of communication to simply say, we are looking to resolve this. There is good scope here for turning things around. Quite often, in my experience, a lot of this is down to cash management, managing the cash flow, and can be resolved sometimes quite quickly. One example was a company in the wire drawing business that I was helping out, where they're in this position, always asking for cash every month. They 1 month, one small profit, next month, small loss. We resolved the situation by going around with the production director and identifying that some 48% of the products were made every week within 7 days, and the company had invoice discounting. We created a standard product line just by identifying it, not moving machinery, negotiated extra credit of £50,000 with the steel supplier. The markup on steel was 100%. So for my £50,000, I got £100,000 of sales. We produced the products, got the cash, got the credit, produced the goods, shipped them, drew down on invoice accounting, and paid our suppliers, and that act alone probably saved the company. So quite often it is about cash management in these situations. So the last one really is overtrading, high growth situations. Well, overtrading is a situation where the company is growing too quickly and cannot finance the growth. There's a real danger in focusing on the top line, that is sales and revenue, in business, as sales quite often need to be financed. Not in the case of retained professional services, of course, but and in a retail business, this requires having sufficient levels of the right stock. In a manufacturing one, it means buying the materials, the raw materials, in advance of getting the business quite often. And in a business services firm, it means funding the marketing. So in every scenario, we're quite often putting out costs before we're getting the sales, the revenue in, before we're getting the cash in. So we're having to pay suppliers before we're getting cash from our customers, basically. Of course, the risk with overtrading is that the lack of cash turns into debt that runs out of control, and that quite often happens. Invoice discounting is a good way to fund fast-growing businesses, but even this is sometimes not enough. In this situation, the turnaround manager will be looking to either finance the growth through investment, which can be sometimes difficult, as most funders do not like financing historical debt, or to control or even rein in the growth to something that is manageable in cash flow terms. That's sometimes difficult to comprehend. Why would we want to slow down the sales? It is then being selective on our sales by looking at which sales giving us the best margins and cutting out the ones that are not. We're not the ones, we're not looking for volume, we're looking for margin. So by focusing on the margin, we can perhaps cut out some of the sales, reduce the sales, but actually make more money. So I would advocate in this situation, a product cost analysis would be well worthwhile, see where we're making the money and rationalising the product range if necessary and taking out the low margin items. We don't need them. All this, of course, has got to be done without jeopardising market demand. What we don't want to do is to turn off the customer base. So we mustn't turn off demand too much and lose the market opportunity. Nevertheless, it's sometimes better to stem the growth and make profits rather than let growth go unchecked, leading to disaster. So that's a brief counter to a brief rundown of my own views on the various scenarios that we face in a turnaround situation. If you or a company or a business would like to talk about your situation, please contact me confidentially. Happy to talk. If you are in the turnaround business yourself, want to talk to me about a situation, not talk about cost or anything here, I'm happy to do so. Happy to share experiences. Please give me a telephone call, email, whatever's the best means of communication for you. And, you know, as I always say, talking costs nothing. Hope you found this useful. I look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you.